Hey everybody, glad to see you, even though I'm looking at you through a camera and through the monitor, but glad you're here. And this is going to be a little bit different video. This is going to be more of a Mythbusters video, and I want you to hang with me, and I'm going to ask a favor of you to get up out of your chair, and I want you to listen to this on speakers too. You cannot do this with headphones. You need to listen through your studio monitors or your stereo speakers. That goes for your earbuds and everything. Also, I'm going to ask you to get out of your chair and walk across the room or into another room, and I'll get into why I want you to do that in just a second here, so hang with me on this. We're talking about mixing in mono. There's many reasons, the benefits for mixing in mono. I'm not going to get into all of them. One of the main reasons is it helps you check for cancellation, phase cancellation specifically. If you have something on the left channel and something on the right channel that are very similar, if they're combined together in mono, they may cancel each other out, and you get serious comb filtering. I'm not going to get into these terms, but hang with me here, okay? And so this can be beneficial because if you play your music, if it goes over a single speaker, like say if you're creating background music for music that you might hear in a department store or an elevator over a mono TV or even a mono radio or something like that, hopefully your stereo mix, when it's electronically collapsed to mono, will still be relevant and you won't lose any information. Okay, there's other reasons about mixing in mono, checking volume balances and that sort of thing. I'm not going to get into the depth, but I want to cover more of the phase cancellation and what you might run into. This is where this gets a little interesting, because as you get further away from your stereo speakers, your sound becomes more mono-like. It becomes more mono-ish, if you want to say that. In other words, if I step back, my speakers are 5 feet apart, and if I step 20 feet away from them, I'm not going to get nearly the separation on my speakers, and it's going to sound more like a mono source coming from the other side of the room. If I walk into a completely different room or into the hallway or outside the room, you're going to hear it definitely as a mono source. You're not going to hear it distinctly as two channels. Now, granted, it's still a stereo source. This can get very complicated. I'm not going to get into the depth because the speakers are actually firing and the wavelengths coming out of the speakers are actually traveling different paths to get to the ear. And that's pretty much my explanation of what's coming up here. Hang with me here. I'm probably clear as mud here. But many will argue, and I've heard this a lot on the internet, that the further you get away from something that may be out of phase, a left and right, and you get away from it due to distance, like in another room, it will collapse it into mono and that sound will disappear. Well, that's not true. The further you get away from the sound, yes, it will sound more like a mono source, but because of what I said earlier, the sound coming out of your speakers will reflect off the walls differently from each other. They will travel a different path. If you walk out of the room off to one side, one speaker is going to travel that much, has that much more distance to get to your ears than the other speaker. So they will not cancel out electronically as the same as collapsing them in your DAW or electronically collapsing, or however you might do that. Let me show you, and this is where I'm going to ask you to get a little physical. So here we go. I've got two mono sine waves, track 1 and 2, the red and blue tracks here. And if you look, you can see they are totally in phase with each other. Okay? Now, I'm not going to try to nudge a track, and I can at this point, but I could do that. I could nudge one track until it's out of phase with the other one, but I'm going to do this electronically. And the way I'm going to do that is in Studio One, you're provided with a utility plugin called the Mix Tool, and it allows me to electronically invert the phase. I have an instance of that here on track 1. So let me go ahead and just play these, and like I say, if you've got your speakers cranked, this is going to be kind of an annoying tone, so here we go. Now you can see I'm getting signal on both of them here. What I'm going to do, if you look on the Mix Tool here, I'm going to invert the phase of track 1. And presto, what do you know? I've electronically have reversed the phase of one track, and when they are combined together, going to my main bus, you can see my master out is reading nothing. I can just crank this baby up, and there's nothing coming out. Okay, but I am getting signal if you look in both of my channels here. Okay, let me back my master back down. I'm going to take the phase out. Okay, this is where it gets a little interesting here. I'm going to go ahead and pan these hard left. Pan one hard right. I'm going to go ahead and invert the phase. Okay, you can hear that's probably giving you a little bit of a stereo sound actually for the sound if you can perceive that over your speakers. But you are still hearing the sound. Okay. Now, if I collapse this to mono by walking further away or into another room, purportedly, it's believed that some believe that, okay, well, I'm collapsing this to mono due to distance, that you will not hear them. So here's what I'm going to ask you to get a little physical. Go ahead and get up out of your chair, and I'm just going to do this for about 10 seconds. So if you don't have time, come back and rewind it and do it. I'm going to raise the volume up here, but go ahead and walk out of your room right now and tell me if you hear this. Well, hopefully you had enough time there, and as you walked away or even to the back of your room or whatever and heard it as a mono source, you can definitely still hear the two sources there. This red channel is out of phase with the blue channel. They're panned hard. And if I combine it actually into a mono on my master channel, that will knock it out too. Or the same thing, if I pan them back together, I'll pan this guy, the blue channel, back to the center. And then pan the red channel back to the center as well. And voila, our sound is gone, even though you can see that they're both playing and got healthy meter action going right there. So yes, when you collapse something electronically, and something is out of phase, yes, they will cancel each other out. When something is out of phase and you get up and walk away and the source sounds like mono, you will still hear it. Okay, your ears are different. There's so many, like I say, many reasons why this is in effect, and I could probably speak for an hour on this and totally put you to sleep. I'm not going to do that, but you saw that here. Walking into the other room or away, you will still hear the two channels together, creating a sound. I'm going to do something a little bit different here, and I hadn't planned on doing it, but I'm going to go ahead and move one track out of phase. And let me go ahead and I'm just going to put this back into phase. Let me zoom out. And I'm just going to drag one track, and that should slowly do the same thing here, okay? I'm going to go ahead and play it. Okay? And if I take this track and just drag it, you can see they're out of phase with each other here. And hopefully now when I play it, you won't hear them. Okay, now if I phase invert that track electronically, now you will hear it. And there you go. Hopefully this clears up any mud, solves any questions. I tell you, this is a difficult subject to talk about in a short time without getting so involved, and I'm just kind of winging it here as I'm talking. So if you have any questions about it, put them down in the comments there, and any specific questions, and I'll try to answer them. I'll try to create another video if it helps, but Yes, getting up and walking out of the room and hearing pan sources that are out of phase with each other, even when they're identical, you will still hear them. Okay? The balance may get a little different, but you will still hear them. Hearing them as a mono source because of distance will not make them cancel each other out. That's it, guys. I appreciate you hanging in there with me. Another Mythbusters. Actually, this is my first one, and I'm going to let you go. We'll see you in the next video, guys. Thanks a lot.